Hi everyone, this is Amber from Dolls of Amber, and today I'm back with a new video. I was commissioned to make Azami Kurotani from Uzumaki. She's also known as Spiral Girl. If you didn't know, Uzumaki is one of Junji Ito's mangas, and if you've been following me for a while now, then I think you remember that I did make a Tomie doll before. I also made a YouTube video of her 6 months ago. It would be really cool if you check it out as well. I'm really excited to work on this doll because of the face mods I'm gonna do. So without further ado, let's get started. For my base, I'm gonna be using G1 Frankie. I think this is the Skull Shores one. And as per usual, I'm gonna prep her up by cutting her hair first. I'm snipping it as close to the scalp as possible. With a flathead screwdriver, I'm gonna scrape off the stubbles from the inside. With some pure acetone, I'm gonna remove her factory paint. You can also use regular nail polish remover for this, although it will take more elbow grease to remove it all. Once she's all clean, I'm gonna go ahead and sketch out a circle on the left side of her face. This is gonna be the guide of the hole that I'm gonna create with my X-Acto knife. I made sure that the blade was really sharp for this, and the clip is sped up, but I am doing this slowly. Now that we have this massive hole on her face, we can finally remove the hair from the inside. I'm gonna keep these clips on normal speed because it's just so satisfying removing the hair. This definitely scratched the niche on my brain, and I bet she feels the same way from what I'm doing here. Off camera, I did wash her head just to remove the stickiness from the old glue. Now for her hair, I'm gonna do a partial reroot. I'm gonna be using this harvested hair from Skelita. I did make a Skelita restyle video last month, so please check that out as well. To tame the hair and make it easier for me to work with, I'm just spraying some water on it. For this reroot, I did decide to do the normal way in rerooting. The hair is just too short for the knot method. I tried it off camera and I couldn't make a knot, so I decided I'm just gonna do this the regular way. I forgot to mention that this is just a partial reroot. I'm just doing this for the part line. The rest of the head will be covered in wefts. Once done, this is what we have. I'm gonna go ahead and glue the inside with some Uhu glue, just making sure that every strand is covered in glue, and then I'm spreading it around with a Q-tip. While the glue is still wet, I directly added in some air dry clay. I did this to permanently seal the hair in there. Now because I am going to do some face mods, I need to fill her head with some aluminum foil and some air dry clay as well. This is just to make her head harder, because if I straight up did some sculpting with epoxy clay and I accidentally squished the head, there's a high chance that the epoxy could crack. I'm gonna start building up the sculpted spiral in her face. I first inserted an aluminum foil for the base. On top of that, I'm going in with some air dry clay, and I'm just gonna cover the foil really well. I'm just making sure that everything is covered here. I'm trying to smooth out the surface with some water, and I'm just gonna let this dry for a couple of hours. Once the air dry clay is dry, I'm gonna go ahead and use my Dremel to widen the hole a bit more. I'm also modifying the shape of her face. I'm trying to make her jaws a little more softer, since Frankie is more angular, while the character has a more softer jawbone. Now because we used our Dremel on the face, the texture is a lot more rougher now, so I'm using varying grits of sandpaper to smoothen it back. Now we can finally sculpt the spiral with some epoxy clay. I'm using this 2-part epoxy clay that I got from Shopee. It's pretty small and it doesn't have a brand, but it works really well for body mods. If you saw my recent videos, you saw me use this particular epoxy clay before. I'm just mixing the 2 parts together. I directly added it into the hole, and with my finger and some sculpting tool, I'm just pressing that on there. I'm also using some water to help smoothen it out and spread it inside the hole. Now I'm just adding the epoxy on the edges. I just want this to be seamless, so I'm adding this in so I can blend it into the doll head. With the smaller ball tool, I'm just sculpting in the actual spiral. I really love how it's turning out at this point. Now I just need to add in her eye. And now I'm just adding more texture with my tools. I've let it cure for 24 hours. Off camera, I also sanded down the epoxy parts of her face and also sprayed 2 layers of MSC or Mr. Super Clear. I let that dry for 20 minutes and now it's time to paint her face. I'm priming her face first with some white. This is to help the new skin color appear more opaque. I did this in 2 watered down thin layers. Once that is dry, we can now paint her new skin color. I also watered this down and did this in 2 layers. I also tried to match it to the body as close as possible. In this part, I'm painting on the second layer, just making sure that everything is even. And I'm going to use some pan pastels. I found that this helps a lot in evening out the texture, so I always use it on my repaints. I'm also using it on the body now, just to make sure that everything matches. I also took this moment to body blush her body. I'm using a lot of brown and oranges to give her body some warmth and depth. Now I'm just sketching out her face. She only has one eye that I need to draw, so I don't need to worry about symmetry, which is awesome. I think I said the same thing for Tomie when I was working on her. But yeah, symmetry has always been a struggle for me, so whenever I get to do a project like this, where I only need to draw one eye, or her face doesn't have to be symmetrical, I get really excited, mostly because I don't have to worry about perfection. Now that her face is sketched in, I'm just going in with some powder to blush her face and also add depth. I'm also using white pan pastel to highlight. Now it's time to do the actual painting. I'm painting her eyeball white first, since the powders did discolor it a bit. And I'm also filling in the whites in her other eye. For her actual eye color, I'm using a dark gray. And now I'm just filling in her brows. Now I'm gonna outline her eyes, and the video is sped up, but I'm doing this really slow. Now I'm painting in her lashes. This is really tricky. I still have problems drawing lashes, even though I've had so much practice on it already. But whenever I do feel like my lines are too thick or jagged, I'll just use the same skin tone color, and I'll use that to clean up my lines. Now I'm just adding in more detail in her iris. I'm adding a lighter gray on the bottom of her pupils, just to give it some highlight. I added a line of white directly under the pupils. With some pink, I painted in her tear duct. I painted in some white vertical lines on the bottom of her pupils. I do this a lot now with my repaints. Now I'm finally painting in the spiral. I'm just using a base of red first, and I'm just filling that in. Now I'm painting in her lips. I went for a more nude dusty rose color. This is just for the base, but I did darken it a bit later on by adding in more red and black. You can see that more here. But now I'm just lining in her mouth line, and I'm attempting to blend in the black to give it a more gradient. I'm blurring it out like a lip stain. It was a lot of back and forth in this part. I just wanted the blend to be perfect as possible. Now I'm painting in her eyeball. For the iris, I'm going in for some red. I am referencing a colored version of the infamous panel from the manga, and that's why I painted it red for this eyeball. It's not focusing, but I'm currently outlining the iris. In this part, I'm painting in the pupil. I'm also painting in the veins. I am dry brushing black in the spiral. It's really hard to see, but I'm just adding a lot of depth. I'm also lifting up the black with some tissue paper whenever I feel like I've added in too much. Now I am outlining the spiral itself. I know it's really hard to see. I'm really sorry that it's blurred out. I'm also doing this really slowly. The clip is just sped up because this is a long-ass video. Now I'm just adding in some blushing. I went for some red under the eye. Made sure to add that in for the other side as well. I also went in for some brown to give her eye some depth. I also wanted it to appear that she has bags under her eye. Also added that in under her nose. And now I'm going in with some black pastel. I'm just gonna deepen everything up and build up the black on the spiral. I also painted the edges of the spiral black. I'm just adding more shadows. And now I'm just adding in her catch lights. Also a line of white on the side of her eye for some shine. And I just wanted this to be perfect, so I added in more black pastel for the shadows. With a color pencil, I'm adding veins on the other eye as well. I also added in some veins on the outside of the spiral. I'm just doing some finishing touches now. Once done, I sprayed it with a final layer of Mr. Super Clear. And now we can start glossing her features. For her lips, I'm using Liquitex High Gloss Varnish. For the other parts, I'm using the matte version of Liquitex. Mine dries satin for some reason, so I'm using it for the eyes and the spiral. And with that, we're done with the face up. For the rest of her hair, I have some leftover saran webs here. I used it for my Tomi doll before. I'm so glad I kept the leftovers, because now I can use it for this girl. To glue them on, I'm just using some Uhu glue, and I'm just gonna attach them one by one. Now I'm just cutting the hair to make it shorter. She's looking a bit crazy right now, but I'm gonna fix that. I've let the glue dry for a whole night, so this is the next day and I'm gonna boil wash her hair. I parted her hair in the middle first, I combed it out and then I dunked her head in the water. Now I'm just cutting her bangs. I'm just trying my best here to cut it as evenly as possible. I did need to boil her hair a couple more times to have it lay flat, and I did all of that off camera. I also shortened her hair more to make it accurate to the character. I poured some boiling water on her and this is what we have. Now that we're done with the base doll, I'm going to start working on her accessories and her outfit. I wrapped her up with cling wrap because we're going to start working on her hat. I wasn't really sure how I was going to make it. Then I had this idea to make it like a wig cap. If you're familiar with making doll wigs, this is the same process. Basically, you just get a stretchy fabric, put it on top of your doll, secure it with an elastic, and then spread white glue or Mod Podge on it. Let it dry thoroughly. I think I did about 2 layers of glue. Once you remove the fabric from the doll, it's gonna be stiff and it's gonna hold the shape of the doll head. And this will be the cap for our hat. Now I just need to cut the excess fabric. And as you can see, it fits the head really well. For the brim, I'm just adding glue on this fabric. I'm just gonna stiffen it. I lost a bit of footage, but basically I measured it to the cap, cut a circle for the brim. I then cut a hole in the middle. I cut some strips, and then I glued that on from the inside. I hope that made sense. I'm really sorry I wasn't able to show you guys how I did it. But this is what it currently looks like on the doll. I still need to trim the brim a bit, but other than that, I think it looks really good. I just need to paint it now. I'm just painting it a pale yellow, basing from the colored photo that I showed you guys earlier. I think I did about 3 layers of the paint. Now I'm just gonna seal it in with some matte Mod Podge. Now for her outfit, she wears a really simple dress, so here are the patterns I'm working with. I'm gonna connect the back and front pieces first, and then I'm gonna sew on the sleeves. I'm just doing this by hand, since I feel like I have more control doing it this way. Now I'm just gathering the edge of the sleeves to make it look a little poofy. It should look something like this. I don't really know what you call this part of the sleeve, but this is basically the edge of it. And in her outfit, the sleeves are black on the edge of the sleeves, so I'm just adding that on. I don't know if I made any sense by the way, but this is what it looks like, and now we need to attach it to the dress. Okay, this is what it looks like. Now I need to cut a slit on the back for the opening, and then I need to hem that and the neckline. I did that off camera. I also added in the snaps for the closure. Now we just need to close up the sides, and for that I'm gonna use my machine. And the dress is done. Off camera, I made her a black belt, and I know it's not a belt. This was just the easiest way for me to make it simple and to have it look as close as possible to the outfit. For her shoes, I'm using these gold sandals. I'm not sure if these are Monster High dolls or for what brand they are. I think I got them from a lot, but as you see here, I was just removing the excess plastic. I needed them to be just simple sandals, and I'm just sanding them to smoothen the jagged edges. Off camera, I spray painted them white. And in this part, I'm just gonna glue some ribbons on them. This is just to secure them on the legs so I can just tie them on. But you'll see later on that I did replace these ribbons. I added the extra straps with epoxy clay instead to secure them on her feet. And And with that, we're done with the doll. Let's see her glamour shots. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see more videos like this from me, make sure to subscribe. It will also help a lot if you could share this with your friends or by just liking this video. Also, leave your thoughts down below. You can also let me know if you have any video suggestions. Also, leave down in the description box my other social medias if you want to see more of my work. Again, this is Amber from Dolls of Amber. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you guys next time.